Welcome to Crafts and Minis. I hope your 2020 is starting out great. I know mine is. I made the commitment to get back to this channel in 2020. I'm starting it off with a hashtag hobby streak challenge where I do just a little bit in the hobby every day and post a picture on Twitter. And then every Monday, I'm going to try to give you guys an update so that you can see what I've been doing in the hobby and hopefully gives you a little inspiration and some ideas. So this was it. It's Monday following a Wednesday, New Year's Day. So this is 5 days of work in the hobby this week, and I am very excited to show all that I was able to do. Now, you might be coming back to the channel after a while because I wasn't making videos, or maybe you're finding me for the first time, and I appreciate you stopping by. And maybe you just have nothing else to do. So I got an incredible tweet from my mom don't tweet. Mama sent me a text saying that the cable box was out, so she decided to catch up on Crafts and Minis videos and was glad I was getting after that hobby. So maybe you just have no better options than to watch this video. And even if that's the case, we're still going to get after it. So thanks for stopping by. So this week I got a lot done in 5 days for my rate of production after not doing a lot of work in the hobby in the last few months. And so it felt really, really good. But the only way I was able to do it, and I'll tell you my secret first, is that I had a lot of assembled, based, and primed miniatures ready to go so that if the inspiration struck me, I'd be able to pick them up and get after painting them. And that's honestly the only way I could do this. There'd be no way, if I hadn't done anything in the hobby over these months and didn't have anything prepared, that I would have been able to do that this week, because I would have had to assemble and base and prime. And like the weather of the area I'm in right now and the way I prime outside with a spray can would not have worked well for getting stuff ready. So that's my just first tip for this new year. In these colder months, if that's your climate right now, get after assembling, basing, and priming, or getting even ready to prime if you can't prime outside right now, but just assembling and basing a bunch of miniatures so when you can prime, you have them ready. Now, the first ones I want to show off this week are these orcs up front. I think I got 22 of those done. Now, these orcs are a lot of fun. So they are from the game Dark World from the 1990s. And they're just a super simple sculpt, all the same. And they're chunkier. I mean, this might not be your style. You know, some people talk about mixing scales or how do different miniatures scale together. Well, for me, it depends on what era are you coming from. Like these older Games Workshop influenced figures are chunkier styles. See, the hands are like way bigger than like the hands of a more modern sculpt. I mean, that's not even close, right? Now, when you look, though, at these, and if you think you can tolerate them on your table, they are great sculpts because they're super durable, too. So if people are picking these up when you're playing, obviously you don't want them to be fragile, and so these are durable sculpts. Now, one thing I really liked about them was they were a challenge to differentiate. What do you do when you have 22 of the same miniature? Well, for these, I went ahead and did different colored cloaks with the hood and different colored bracers on the wrist. There you go. Which is a lot of fun. So I also knew, I needed to pick colors that would still stand out after I did my wash on them. And that's why I did the cloaks like these little brighter colors, because I knew they'd look better after a wash. And then also I went back on the faces of the orcs and just picked out the top of the eyelids or the brow, the cheekbones, the ears, the top of the lip, and then the knuckles on the hands with a little green paint after the wash. And that's just really all you have to do if you're getting table ready. Just allow them to pop just a little bit. Otherwise, the faces would be a little more obscured. They'd look a little dirtier even than what I'd normally go for. And so that was really fun. Since I already showed you them, I'll show you them again. This was a bit of a conversion, actually. This is a Dumbledore figure from Nano Metal Figs. So Nano Metal Figs, which I know Target in the United States was selling, but they come on these just huge chunky metal integral bases, so it's part of the figure. And so if you can hack that off, you're doing good. And then I remounted it on my 1-inch base that I like to use, those counting chips that if you look in my videos, you can see how I did that. But he was just a really quick and easy paint job. I had already had him debased from his first base, rebased, primed and ready to go. Now, he also had a little wand coming off his hand here that I scraped off, and that was not fun because this guy's like die-cast metal. So he's nice and heavy. I love metal figures for the table. Normally, I like my metal figures, though, in pewter, not like die-cast. This is an interesting figure. I was doing a couple things with this figure. I wanted to have like a really striking focus on the head, the face and the head, and that hair, right? And I think I achieved at least the hair part. And then I want to just kind of like this to be more like, a rogue figure that's ready for sneaking around. And so just this solid same color with just some shadows in it, and it worked okay. I want to say this is actually a figure of Warcraft. So Warcraft had the board games. It's not from that, but I do have some great figures from the board games. But also, they made their own miniatures, and I want to say I rebased a Warcraft miniature, and I have quite a few like this, and works really good for a rogue. I also got into a few Reaper miniatures, or at least a couple. The Ankheg. Now, this guy is an example of not. Not. This is an example of having a miniature ready to go that I wouldn't normally just pick up and paint. So if this wasn't based and primed and ready to go, I wouldn't have painted this week. But because it was super simple, that's what I did. And I did some extreme highlighting on this just so it would look good on the table and stand out a little bit from the base. So since I do all my bases the same, this brown, I wanted, a basically brown creature to stand out a bit more. So that's why I left the browns just in the recesses and then highlighted up a bit. But it was fast, just like all my stuff, which is awesome. Then I wanted to show you this other Reaper miniature. This is a Dracolisk. So it has 6 legs, good times, and the great big old wings. Now, what's interesting about this, I tried to do this just like I do most of my miniatures, where I have my Zenithal Prime all the way around. So black all around, white from the top, and then I just tried to do a green ink. That did not work. It did not look good. So then it was time to actually paint and have to build up some colors and the variation, and you can see it looks okay. I mean, it's not going to, stand out that much from a crowd of similarly painted dragons, but yeah, it looks okay, and I'm happy with it. It's done, and remember what they say: done is beautiful. So that works. But here's my challenge: this took way longer than this dragon, and I think this dragon looks way better than this one. Right? Now here is just a little miniature theory or a little meta for you. So one of the reasons that the one on the left looks better than the one on the right, in my opinion, is who's painting it? Me, same person, but my style favors more texture on miniatures. So you see the one on the left has more texture on the scales, on like the neck and the shoulders and the wings especially. There's a ton of texture, right? And on this one, there's not that much texture. The wings are smooth, and the scales, while they just don't pop as much, right? The sculpt itself is not as pronounced and crisp when it comes to the scales. And so the one on the right took me way longer to paint because my style is Zenithal Prime, black all around, white from the top, and then a wash as my first coat. And then I can build up just layers after that or just little details. And that's what I did on this one. So I'm really excited to show you. So this is one of those Dungeons and Dragons, $5 a pack, like Temple Dragon, or no, Temple Dragon might be the Reaper one, whatever this one's called, like Silver Dragon, something dragon. It's the $5 dragon that you get in those blister packs. So here's how he started. He started Zenithal Prime. So when I say black all around, white from the top, this is what I mean. You can see underneath, it's black. Up top, it's white. And so I love this sculpt for my painting style. So I actually have too many of these, which is awesome. So this is how this green dragon started out, just like this. And then, if you'd believe it, I did one coat of the newer Citadel Color contrast paints. So this is Warp Lightning. One coat of this all the way around, turned this into this. That's incredible, right? The shoulders, the wings, that's all one coat. Now, on the edge of the wings, I just went through with a little bit darker ink because that's what I do just to make this particular sculpt stand out. I really like how that looks on the back of the wings, by the way, especially next to the lighter little pinions or whatever those are, little pokey bits. But that's all. One coat. And so you got to know your style when you're picking out miniatures too. Now, maybe you haven't painted long enough to develop your own style. You're still trying out. Well, that's why try different things on different miniatures. So the technique to paint this miniature well was not the same technique to paint this miniature well. And I just wanted to point that out. But I just had to show you this. I love this dragon now. Oh, that green just worked out so well, right? And you can tell that's all just from the primer. It was darker primer on the bottom, lighter on the top. That's not two different colors of green paint. That's just the one coat of Citadel contrast. So they marketed that as one thick coat instead of two thin layers, right? Like they normally do, two thin coats, one thick coat. And well, this is what one thick coat did. And I am super happy. So that was awesome. Now, the next mini I got to show you wasn't designed to be a mini for the tabletop. It's a toy that I picked up from GameStop, and I'm sure this is like an iconic figure that whatever game it belongs to, someone's going to be able to say, so if someone else wants to pick it up. I don't remember, I'm sorry, what figure this is from what game, but GameStops once in a while have sales on toys, and I go get Funko Pop toys there to convert for the tabletop. And I haven't done a proper video on that yet in my process and different ways you can convert Funko Pop. But this I saw and I'm like, you know what, that's going to be a challenge because it was like bright silver, shiny silver is the original character. So not only did I not want it to look exactly like the original character so that someone didn't just think I was plopping down, a character from a video game on the table, but I wanted it to also like not take that much time to paint because that's my style. And so what I did was I did like brown and then dry brushed like metal, like silverish metal all over. And then I got after it with the Games Workshop like RZA Rust effect and just like little pockets, right? So I went kind of in different spots all around and then little pockets in the crevices, which you can see. And that worked out real well. But then I'm like, you know what? It just looked like there was just a little bit of rust everywhere. But I'm like, it would be dirtier and there'd be different types maybe of rust on this thing. And so I was picturing this as like an animated statue, living suit of armor type thing. And so then I went through with Citadel's typhus corrosion. And that's where you get the darker stuff. Now, this is for a fantasy setting. And to me, like some of this tubing and stuff just didn't look that fantasy. So I wanted to make sure to get a bunch of typhus corrosion on that so that, real quick look, you're not focusing on the tubes, right? Because if those were like highlighted well or whatever, you'd focus on that. Same thing with the back here of the hammer. I didn't think that looked very fantasy-esque for my type of setting. And so I just put a bunch of typhus corrosion on it, just hoping people don't look at it. But that's the thing. I could have spent time like scraping it, like converting the miniature, right? Like actually cutting into it or covering that up somehow or whatever. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to let the paint do the work. So that's my tip. You can take toys for the tabletop. I put this on a 2-inch fender washer. So now it technically is a large size mini in D&D. But you can convert toys for the tabletop. And maybe if you don't do anything to them, they look out of place. But listen, this wasn't that much work. And I think it looks really fun as like an animated statue or like some animated suit of armor, like the boss before the big boss, right? Something like that. So I'm excited about that one. Now, the next one is really fun because it kind of goes with a story I'm working on that probably will get its own video someday. I always say that, and then I never fulfill that promise, maybe like 50% of the time. So this is a converted miniature. The body is from Thanos. And now that I say that, you're going to be like, oh, yeah. Yeah, that's straight up Thanos Funko Pop toy. Now, I got a bunch of Funko Pops in one lot on eBay that someone was getting rid of. And that's what you got to remember. So I remember, like, I had a cousin who was super into Beanie Babies. If you remember the 90s, the Beanie Babies, that was like a crazy trend. And then, like, because everybody's buying them thinking, oh man, if I find the rare Beanie Baby, then I'll be able to sell it and retire or whatever. And then the market just dropped on Beanie Babies. And so the reason I bring that up is these Funko Pop toys, there's a huge market for them right now still. However, you're going to find people who like realize, wow, these are like a lot to carry around for moves, or, you know, I just got too many on my desk or whatever. And maybe they're realizing, okay, this isn't a collector's item. This is just like a fan item if I really like it. And so there are people getting rid of these Funko Pops, and some are harder to find than others, obviously. But I took the big Funko Pop head off of Thanos, boop, and then what I used here was a Christmas ornament. So a globe Christmas ornament that has a little pokey piece out of it. And then I put the face of a plastic Halloween skull on there. And then I used aluminum foil twisted up to create the structure for his twisty, purpley, fiery head thing. And then I used hot glue. That's all hot glue, which of course you probably guessed that. This is all hot glue all the way around. Now, if this looks familiar, and I did the same with the hands, that's a little bit of aluminum foil on the hands with hot glue. If this looks familiar, it's because I already did this one week. So this is fun. This was the inspiration for that conversion of the Funko Pop toy. This was done up actually as part of a challenge for the Crafters Build Guild challenge one month to use a Christmas ornament. And this is what I used it. You can tell here, it's a big old globe Christmas ornament with a little pokey bit right there. And then I worked up aluminum foil into the twist and then used hot glue all around. Now, this is a bit of a different face than this one. And actually, I love the one on the left way more. And now that I look at them, it's like, dang it, I should have done a little bit more with the eyes on the one on the right. But live and learn, and it's all good. It'll all work. But here's what I'm thinking for an encounter, right? I'm thinking, you know, you got your platform over here, and then the magical flamey ball of fire comes, and then a skull peeks out of it. And that's a lot of fun. So then in the game, that's kind of like, you know, like Snoke in the newer Star Wars movies talking to the party, whatever. And then if they accept the challenge, or if they just get it upset or whatever, all of a sudden the platform morphs into the body. And now all of a sudden you got your Thanos Ghost Rider purpley conversion on the table. And it's really fun. Now, the way I did this body was basically brown and then a silver dry brush all the way around. Actually, I used a new color from Reaper called Skeleton Key. And so the shiny bits here actually are really kind of cool that stick out. And then instead of using like Typhus Corrosion or the Rizza Rust from Citadel, I did this all with dry pigments, right? Like the dusty dry pigments that I think these were from Secret Weapon, just the particular brand that I used. And I used a orange, so like a rusty orange, and then I used a purple, and that's what worked. It didn't really work that well when it was just the orange, but of course orange and purple contrast, so I'm like, oh, okay, like those are complementary colors or whatever. But what really made it pop or work together for me was the purple, and that's the color of those pigments you wouldn't think you need, but honestly I use that purple as much as any other pigment because it really works good for shadows. And then like if you got like paler flesh of a big monster or something, you know, an ogre or whatever, it works really good for that. But I just liked it, so that worked out well. But I got more Funko Pop conversions coming, so get ready for that. Overall, though, I'm really pleased with 5 days of work. I'm really pleased with the start of 2020, and I'm really pleased to get back into this hashtag hobby streak. And something that's been so fun is if you jump over to Twitter, then you can see all these other folks who are doing hashtag hobby streak challenges on there. I know a bunch of folks too on Facebook do it and all over. I'm sure Instagram's a thing. I'm not on it really though. So wherever you're at on social media, just type in hashtag hobby streak and see what pops up. It's so fun to see people getting after the hobby that way. I just really appreciate everybody stopping back or finding me for the first time. Appreciate you too, Mom. Shout out to you if you paid attention this whole video. And then just know that this community is awesome, and the inspiration that we get from one another is really, really fun. And I just hope these videos will be something that you enjoy and look forward to. So until we meet again, go get after your hobby.